Hi, everyone. My name is Steven Kilger. I'm the managing editor of Feed and Grain Magazine and the host of the Feed and Grain podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today as we dive deep into the issues affecting the feed manufacturing, grain handling, and allied industries. Today's episode is brought to you by the Bin Whip and Pneumat Systems. The powerful dual-impact Bin Whip removes the toughest buildup and blockages in industrial storage silos without hazardous silo entry. Learn more today at binwhip.com. Today's episode is the first of a two-parter with Todd Sargent's Vice President of Project Development, Alex Kerrigan. We're talking about what it's like to start a construction project in the feed manufacturing, grain handling, and processing industries. We discuss what it's like to start a project like this, when to get a contractor, and what information they need to help you build your best project. I hope you enjoy the interview. If you want to help out the podcast and are listening to this in a podcasting app, please rate us and subscribe. Helps out the podcast a lot. If you're listening online, sign up for the Feed and Grain newsletter, Industry Watch, to see the latest podcasts and stay up to date on all of the latest news from around the industry. Now, on to the show. Hi, Alex. Thanks for joining us today. I really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, great to be here, Stephen. Thank you very much for the invite. Looking forward to chatting a little bit through the construction or pre-construction items that customers should think about when building a facility.
Yeah, it's a really good topic. I realized actually when we for full disclosure to everyone listening, we just Alex and I just met at IPPE and talked a little bit, and I realized I've known Alex for 10 years now, which is kind of crazy to think about. But you're one of our favorite experts on any of this kind of topic. So we really appreciate you sitting down with us. But for anyone who hasn't known you for the past 10 years, can you tell me a little bit more about yourself and what you do at Todd Sargent?
Yeah, I've been at Todd Sargent. I interned here back in 1998, just in both the field a little bit and estimating and touch of design over a short time period during the summer. It's funny, I graduated college with more of a finance or with a finance background and wanted to learn more about the inner workings of a private company, the financial side of a private company. And then the more I got around the design piece and the project management piece, I gravitated towards that instead. So I've got an agricultural background. I've been around these smaller facilities for years since I was, probably 6th, 7th grade, helping my dad out on the farm and also around our grain elevator and feed mills locally. From southern Iowa, a little town called Afton. I still farm down there with our family. We've got a small grain elevator / dryer system down there. It's kind of nice to just, beat around and understand concepts and equipment in general. And then, of course, I could probably get into my own little, owner or project management on small projects down there as well. So, but at any rate, yeah, I've been at Todd Sargent since 98 intern and back in the swing of things in 02 full time. And I've gone anywhere from working on grain elevators and feed mills to more involved processing on, say, soy crush facilities, expeller plants, pet food facilities, quite a bit in the biodiesel industry, managing jobs on biodiesel and a little bit of ethanol work here, 15, 18 years ago. Quite a bit in the flour milling industry. Really enjoy the flour and feed side both. I enjoy these complex facilities that take a lot of interaction or a lot of coordination between owners, the process technologists, and the construction side, be it engineering or construction alike. So I guess my biggest desire in growing up and what I do today is just organizing facilities to be more efficient. And my love for agriculture is just making things better, whether it's in how we go about constructing or how we go about processing the grain and logistically how to get it there and how to get finished product out. So it's a little bit about me.
Yeah, you yeah, you've been involved in some huge projects over the years. Some of the biggest stories we've ever covered at Feed and Grain have been Todd Sargent stories. And it's also really nice to hear that you're still on that hobby farm. Or you still do that? Because I always remember talking about you around harvest season, and it's got to be pretty relaxing, right? To be able to go from regular, just go down to the farm and get out there on the combine and harvest some grain. It's to be a nice respite.
Yeah, most people know they're sitting around on the tractor. It gives you time to introspect or sit in the combine, but it helps me just kick back and relax a little. And if concepts here at Todd and Sargent or design concepts happen to pop into my mind as I'm tooling around out in the middle of the field, that's a nice time for me just to try and envision certain ideas that come from a customer, or how to implement best practices from a vendor or a good subcontractor that we team up with on a job. And yeah, I enjoy working at Todd and Sargent and all of our teams, and especially with the owners that we get to interact with. But I also like having that little bit of free time to think about, or like I said, just envision what we might construct for a customer as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. I only understand that from writing, where the best way to get rid of writer's block is like to go for a long drive and just kind of think to yourself there in the seat. So I imagine it's similar. Uh, but so we have you on kind of to talk about the beginning process of a facility who might want to upgrade or might be thinking of upgrading, renovating, or building a new site, and kind of what information they should start to gather before they talk to someone, and when to talk to someone, and what to talk to someone like you about. So starting with, so before engaging with a construction company, what kind of essential information should companies really gather to ensure that it's going to be a successful project and that they have everything ready for you to give your input?
I guess the few different hats that I wear at Todd and Sargent, we're thinking about conceptual design and how to interact with a customer, whether it's just the process design or specifications, just negotiating the final sales package and everything. But some of the things that an owner wants to be thinking about, or what's, as you said, what's the essential information that companies could gather ahead of time. A lot of owners, this goes without saying, they already have this in the back of their mind. But there are some owners that don't consider these items of what's the distance, or how far away are you, logistically speaking, or what's your access to raw materials, and to the backside of it, what's your distance or access to the end user or customer. And what I mean by that is, if you're building a feed mill in a particular locale, is it a feed mill that's in close proximity to corn being grown, or do you need to bring in everything by rail? And then the second part of it is, or that back end part of it is your facility close by where you're capable of just throwing something on a truck in bulk, or maybe bulk bags, or just smaller 50-pound bags and sending it over to an end user? Or do you need to be thinking about a much more involved logistical setup of loading out rail cars, or it still could be a pretty complex thing to be transloading from, I don't know, say it's into a van trailer versus dumping it into a hopper bottom semi. So that's a big thing, is understanding the distance, understanding the costs involved. And like I said, I think a lot of customers, they have that in mind from the get-go when they're siting a facility. The other thing, though, and these are some of the things that you hope you can just kind of force through if you're an owner, maybe, or at least you hope for the best, is do the neighbors, do they want you there? There have been discussions, complexes in Kansas that have been, hey, no, we don't want you there. There's that, I think of that export facility down Louisiana. Maybe the neighbors don't want you there. It sounds crazy, but being a good neighbor means a lot. Interacting with the local Chamber of Commerce, or economic development means a lot. And you have to just think through that, and what state you're thinking about building in, or what location you're thinking about building in. Will the permitting be an uphill battle that actually outweighs the site's benefits, or will everything fall into place and make your entire process of construction and eventually operation of the facility profitable and I'll say synergistic with the locals?
Yeah, people really underestimate how important it is to have the community on your side. Interesting little side story that I might cut from this, but I think is really interesting, is I got a call from an NPR reporter covering that facility down in Louisiana that there were all those protests for, and they're trying not to get not built, as a little background person, which I was very excited about because I was like, I've never been a background consultant for anybody before. This is fun. And he's asking me all these questions, and he's like, well, like, are there concerns about dust and stuff, justified, or smell and noise? I'm like, I mean, no, because you can build facilities. I mean, we have equipment to get rid of most dust. We have dust collectors, and they're a lot cleaner than they've ever been. Same with noise, and same with air pollution and smell and stuff like that. And then, of course, he used none of that in the article, and just kind of was like, "Yeah, it's gonna smell." I'm like, "That's not what I said at all."
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, most everything with a facility in a particular locale can be mitigated. It is a matter of cost, though. I mean, obviously, the cost of a dust system versus no dust system is there's additional cash that needs to be or a cash outlay for that particular system. And it happens with noise pollution, light pollution, et cetera. All of those things are certainly things that can be taken care of with additional costs. But there's other things besides just keeping the locals happy too. Does the railroad, like, say if you've got a railroad that you're working with, do they want to service your site? The biggest thing that we find on at least any project that involves railroad service is the customer starts talking to them maybe 3 months in advance of wanting to break ground. And that's good that they're talking to them, but you'll find, and I think everybody that's maybe listening is aware that, the railroad they've got a lot of approvals they need to get through. They have a lot of safety checks they want to confirm. They want to make sure the engineering of your facility or what their locomotive might be driving across is well constructed or well engineered and well thought through. And so you want to make sure that the railroad's able to service your site, and that they've given you kind of an idea of what the timeline will be of when you'll actually be able to get service. So that's a big one. Obviously, most everybody listening is aware that the facilities that are being constructed, be it a feed mill or a grain elevator, an annex storage, flour mill, whatever it may be, these are tall facilities. I mean, grain is stored upright for the need of utilizing minimal space. And with these being tall facilities, you need to be in conversation with the local airport or the FAA to make sure that there are no objections to your plant location or the height of your facility, or that feed manufacturing plant or whatever you're thinking about building.
Yeah, definitely. And see, these are all things that, especially when you're caught up in the moment, you might kind of just forget about until you're way more into the thick of things. So, at what point should a company really start a dialogue with a company like yours, an engineering, design, construction company?
Yeah. So we always say in the feasibility study, it doesn't matter if you're talking to Todd and Sargent or any other contractor out there. The earlier we can get an idea of what you're thinking about building and some of the nuances of the job or the site itself, the smoother things will go. If you wanted just a package answer of when you should start, I mean, hell, I've worked on facilities where it's been 10 years in the making, and then we finally broke ground. I've worked on facilities where the owners had a lot of these ducks in a row, so to speak, already. Within 4 to 6 months, we're breaking ground and working away. The owner needs to be talking to utilities about whether it's the railroad that I just mentioned, if it's electrical, if it's water, sewer, gas. What's the water quality that's needed for the boiler, the delivery volume for either domestic use or the boiler use, or hell, maybe even a fire pump or suppression system. Those are things that they want to be getting done as soon as they possibly can. that could certainly be something that's a year in the making, a year in advance. You need to be thinking through, hey, is my site, is it culturally or environmentally sensitive? Do I need to get an environmental firm, on retainer to start thinking about the air permitting? There are a lot of states and provinces out there that, it could be anywhere from 6 to 12 to, I'll say 6 to 12 months with the air permitting, and certainly other environmentally sensitive areas. Like if you have a wetland that needs to be mitigated, it could take some time to get those permits in hand. Or if it's on a culturally sensitive site and you need to get a cultural resource management company involved to do a survey or talk mitigation, that's something that should be thought about a year or two in advance. Something I guess I'd throw this out. What I find happens a lot is an owner sees this pristine parcel of land, or they're given this pristine parcel of land by a, I don't know, say an industrial park group or whatever. And it looks great up on top, but there's a lot of things that can happen from a civil design of, how much dirt needs to be moved, or worse yet, how much needs to be imported from offsite to build up this nice piece of ground. And then, hey, what's going on underground? The geotechnical needs. It is ideal to get a soils report and a few soil borings done as soon as you're able, just so you know what you're getting into with this particular parcel. You might think you're buying it for $3,000 an acre, and it's hey man, that seems pretty cheap versus $10,000, and then you realize, oh my gosh, this soil underneath is nothing but mucky silt or fat clays, and it's going to force me into $1 million and a half dollars worth of piling or something. Those are things that you usually say to a construction company, hey, I just want to get a price on this facility, but you don't always think through what might be underground and how you have to support these massive structures.
Yeah, and I'm sure, especially with people who haven't done a new project in a long time, I mean, all those regulations and all those things have, I assume, gotten more strict, and also probably take a lot longer than people think they're going to, which is, bureaucracy of governments on all levels.
Yeah. And that's like you said, Steve, that's on the more of the authorities having jurisdiction or servicing folks, but you also have a lot of interaction, not just with a Todd Sargent type group or construction group. You got a lot of interaction with your industry partners, like a technology provider. If it's a brand new greenfield site flour mill, there's probably a lot to be discussed with a process technologist of what your outputs are and how you're going to fit it around, and that's going to determine what the footprint is of your actual structure to house all this equipment. If you get a feed mill that's a little 30 by 40 footprint for an ingredient bin tower, and a little 30 by 40 footprint or 20 by 40 footprint maybe for the loadout lanes, that's one thing. If you're looking at a big old feed mill with 3 pelleting lines and more like a 50 by 60 ingredient tower and 2 or 3 loadout lanes and say a couple million bushels of grain storage, I mean that's a lot. And that's just that's just the footprints. You still have to determine what's needed for the traffic flow around that facility and what you need for roadways, and how you interact with the civil engineer to determine not just how much dirt needs to be moved, but how you actually move water across the site. What drainage is necessary to have a long lasting site that you're happy with for 100 years to come. So.
Hello again. It's me, Steven, just hopping back in at this point to let you know the second part of this interview will be coming next week. But until then, thank you for listening and stay safe out there.